Yo folks, and welcome to the channel. My name is Bork. In today's video we'll be talking about September clan battle and showing you the different teams and describing the bosses, but let's go ahead and jump right into this. So the first boss that I want to talk about is the Titano Turtle, and the thing is with him, he's fairly interesting. Whenever he receives physical damage, he's going to be dealing it back so he can counterattack. So when he's like in his shell form, he's going to be absorbing that damage and pretty much outputting it back to you. So he's going to be a very interesting boss if you run like a high physical team. I would recommend not attacking him while he's in his shell so that everyone doesn't die. It's just like one of those simple things that we can pay attention to when it comes to the turtle. And then when it comes to the scorpion boss, he is actually really interesting. So he can actually stack his union burst up to 3 times to deal higher damage each time. And then not to mention, he's going to nullify stat debuffs on self. That means if he has like physical defense downs or magic defense downs, he can clear it himself. And then he can also increase his own physical defense. So for this dude specifically, you're probably going to want to run a magic team, especially later on. Now for the current clan battles, you can still run a physical team because physical teams are still dominant and they're still going to reign supreme. But let's go ahead and look at the Google spreadsheets, and thank you to u/LoneDizzy for putting out this Reddit post. This Reddit post describes all the different like characters or units that you need to use against all the different bosses. It shows like all the different skills, and not to mention a breakdown on all the information regarding like, hey, you know, what do you do? What do you need to pay attention to? Timings for when a skill occurs. And that's really amazing information because you can do a lot of like timetables just based off of this information. Not to mention, here's some boss data in case people want to know about score multipliers. The Scorpio has 70 magical defense compared to his 180 physical defense. It's fairly obvious you should be using an Ilya team or some sort of magic team against him. That way you can deal the most damage. And also here's going to be this auto skeleton teams by the main Discord, the main Princess Connect Discord specifically. And you can see here, this is how people have organized the teams. And just note, June Sarin is at the top. That's going to be, you know, your de facto standard. But then you have like your double archer comps right here, and not to mention the Hiyori comps. And this team like dynamic will ride through pretty much the entirety of CB. And just note that you can configure these teams, and as you can see, they're running a magic team specifically against the Scorpio boss. So let's go ahead and run this and show you a magic team that I preferred. So if we go into my parties right here, I put it right here, and this is more of a defensive team by u/LoneDizzy. And the reason why I like this, it's going to be good for lap 2. Now note, for lap 1, I'm going to recommend folks to run Akari right here. I probably need to level her up, and then I'll probably use a support such as Kyoka. Now if you're wondering how much damage is this team going to be dealing, I think it's like roughly around 1.2 1.3. Now if you're really good, and I think if you run it on like timelines and stuff, I'm pretty sure this team can probably deal upwards to 1.5 million. I'm pretty sure it has to do with the fact that your timing, Kari's magical defense breaks, plus just like spamming usually Karu's attack goes really well. And the best way to also approach like Kyoka's sort of UB is after she does her buff to herself, that's when you cast her UB. You don't just spam her UB, right? So I just want to like share those like small tips in case people want to timeline. Wait for Akari to actually use her magical defense breaks before you do her UBs. For Summer Karu, you know, just wait until either she does like a magic defense breaks or Akari, then spam her. And as you can see here, like the team is surviving phenomenally, and the reason for that is because we're in lap 1, and this is probably like the more de facto magic team that most folks should be running if you have Ilya at 5 stars specifically. Obviously not everyone can run a magic team because I think a magic team is quite possibly like the most expensive, but as you can see here, Ilya dies, but we deal a nice 1.29 million damage, almost 1.3, which is not bad whatsoever. I'm pretty sure this could deal even more, like I said, depending on like the timings you use, but that's the magic team that I'm going to recommend most folks to use. But you can also use the more defensive version, which I showed earlier, and it's going to involve Yui. Yui is actually going to be really good for this clan battle specifically, but just note this is against the Scorpion boss when he is in lap 2, not lap 1. We'll showcase that probably on a different day. Now let's go ahead and cover the turtle right here. Usually the team that I like to run is more of the double archer comp because it does deal the most damage. And just note that you can replace like Shori and Suzuno with, you know, Arisa if you have one. Let's see, does the clan have an Arisa? I don't think so. So I guess my best bet is I'm gonna be trying to use our Arisa right here, but I doubt she's gonna be dealing that much more damage because she is 3-star. She doesn't perform like Shori, but just note that Arisa, if you have her at 4-star and you do have her more upgraded, she should be dealing a little little bit more damage comparatively to all the other archers. But let's go ahead and see. I'll show you like what I did with like my other archer team with Shori and Susanna specifically. If this team can score 1.5 million, then I consider it a winner. But just looking at this from like face value, I'm not so sure because Arisa might be a little bit too squishy. I don't have her fully decked out, and I might have to worry about that 4th position because that seems to be like the place where it gets like the most damage dealt to them. But also, like we talked about earlier, when it comes to the turtle, you should not attack him whenever he goes into that shell state. Ideally, of course, you could definitely attack him, but just note that he's going to be dealing the damage back. So this is probably going to hurt quite a bit. So he's in his shell mode, and then Arisa just dealt 97k damage. Yeah, and that's the thing that you should probably avoid. When we see him in like the turtle mode, we're gonna turn off auto. I think that part is pretty straightforward, and I'm so happy that I captured that on camera so you guys can see like this is a good auto team, but that's probably 100% one of the biggest things to avoid when you are fighting this boss, because if you attack him in that shell form, you have essentially sent your team into the bucket, and that's the last thing that I want to see. Hope and actually pay attention. Oh my goodness, I think I just saw Susanna deal 108k damage. So if she deals that to the boss when like he's in turtle form, there's no way our team is going to survive. Not to mention the crits that she's landing is absolutely nutty. 48k damage right there, so a little bit more normalized, but my goodness, she is an absolute beast right here. All right, laying down the seeds. Okay, no one attack, no one attack, please do not touch him, and then go ahead and go crazy. Obviously I should have used like Makoto right there before I dealt like the Arisa damage, but you know what, this is auto. I'm not trying to sweat right now. But as you can see, I think this is one of the most important boss to at least somewhat pay attention to, because you do not want to be like, oh, I just dealt like 108k damage or whatever to this turtle, and next thing you know, he just pretty much runs you down because you attacked him in his turtle state. No, please. No, oh, we're dead. We're dead, but it's 4 seconds left. Honestly, at this point, it really doesn't matter because you're probably going to die anyways. And oh my god. Yeah, that was a lot of damage from like Harry. You see the 102k? Obviously, 1.39 million. You know, we probably could have dealt better if we ran it on manual. But let's go ahead and show you the other teams. Like in case you guys are wondering, like what's the one to run for turtle? This is the one, like the double archer comp with Shori and Susanna. Maybe you want to save Arisa for another team. I don't know, but it's up to you really. If you guys want to see it, let's go ahead and just run it really quick. I feel like this team is like no secret as to why it's so successful. It's mostly because you have like 2 of the highest damage dealers, and with this team specifically, you don't even have to turn off auto because I feel like the timings are a little bit better. You might have to turn it off for one of the archers because sometimes they deal damage. It's really minimal. So obviously he's in his shell mode right here, but he jumps out of it, and by the time he does, like everyone's pretty much dealing their damage and stuff. In case you want to min-max it, you could, you know, use Makoto's like union burst afterwards, you know, before carry and whatnot. As you can see here, it's pretty safe so far. We're 50 seconds deep into it. What I really like about this team, I've ran it like 4 or 5 times against the turtle because we're on this turtle boss specifically, and we haven't had any issues. I feel like if someone is running like pure auto teams, this is probably like the only boss that you have to worry about. Outside of that, everything else should be fine because you don't really have to worry about, you know, someone counter attacking damage. And I feel like he's one of the first bosses with this mechanic, and every single time I see Kaori deal 108k, that is like the most craziest thing ever. Like I did not think we would be dealing anywhere close to that sort of damage in the Princess Connects that I was playing back in the day. Here we go, the 158 million, 101.5 million, something like that. Yeah, let's go. How much damage is this going to be? All right, I think that's 1.57 or 1.56. Obviously, you could deal way more damage depending if you can actually manual this team or not, but those are going to be some teams, and let's just show like the Needle Creeper team in case you guys are wondering. Like the one that I like to run is the classic June Sarin, just because this has been the tried and true one, and if you can manual this one specifically, usually you can get some pretty decent damage out of it. But honestly, this boss, he's never fun to like run whatsoever. In fact, he's like my least favorite boss. Oh, interestingly enough, this is actually going to be a team, this one with Hiyori, who's going to be running more damage. Let's backtrack and actually, you know, run that team specifically instead of this one. As much as I love running June Sarin, there is an auto team that will deal a little bit more damage. Then I'm definitely going to be running this one. All right, this one. So apparently Eriko in this form might be able to deal more damage, but just note she has to be rank 11-3 in order for this to, I guess, deal the damage that you want it to deal. 1.3 million is the goal with this auto team specifically. But just know, you can run Tomo and Tama, like Summer Tamaki and Tomo. That will deal a little bit more damage. I feel like usually the ones to replace is going to be Eriko and Hyori. That way, those two can essentially deal the most damage. I might be trying it out just for the sake of it, like one more time, but I'm kind of curious as to how much damage this team is going to be dealing. The reason why I'm showing you like how to mess like with these auto teams, or what to look for, at least when to time like the bosses and stuff, is just so that we as a community can sort of enjoy clan battle. I think clan battle is usually like the highlight for most folks who want to stay relatively pure insanity, where everyone's like putting their heart and soul and spending as much time as possible to deal optimal damage. Usually it's a pretty great time if you can find the correct clan, if folks don't get too crazy and too sweaty. But as you can see here, I think we're just going to be dealing a nice 1.3 million, unless we can get Kaori's UBs off right here. All right, very nice. And we're probably going to be dealing 1.38. This one can deal upwards to 1.5, but I think it's also because my Eriko is not at her full like capabilities. Let's go ahead and run one more team like we talked about earlier. I kind of want to see what it does. So we're going to be changing out these two, and then we're going to be placing Tomo and Tama. This is usually a pretty decent team. I think you can replace like Mitsuki or one of like these characters, not Makoto obviously, in order to get like Summer Tamaki or Summer Kokoro in the team, so she can actually provide a heal, only because like someone might die. I'm really curious, like, will this deal more damage than the Hyori comp? Because usually like Hyori comp is pretty clean, it does like a significant amount of damage, but I just want to see if Tomo and Tama on this one specifically will deal more damage. So right now we're at like the 500k range. If it can get at least to 1 million within hopefully the 20 to 30 second mark, I think we'll be good. But right now we're obviously dealing a crap ton of damage. We're already at like 700 800k at 40 seconds. So this is something that you can sort of use to mess with like the auto skeleton teams, where you can plug and play like different units that you know will consistently perform. For example, you're like, oh, can Summer Kokoro actually perform here instead of like XYZ unit who might be a healer? Like that can definitely work. Previously this team was dealing like 1.3 million with like the Hyori and Eriko comp. I just slammed Summer Tamaki and Tomo here, and we are dealing way more damage. Just note that the team we showed previously, highest damage was 1.5 million. If this damage, or if this team can score this one more consistently, then obviously I'll try to run this team, but I probably need to do more tests, not to mention it's only lap 1, so we still have a fairly long climb battle to go. But yeah, those are going to be the different teams. Hopefully the auto skeleton teams help you out for those who are running a clan and want people to run specific teams. Thank you again to you/Lone Dizzy and everyone who helps make this Princess Connect community such an amazing thing that it is. But anyways, if you made it this far in today's video, consider subscribing, dropping a like, leaving a comment, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. Just note that I am a retired CB player, so you're probably going to be dealing more damage than me. Hopefully this helps you out, because that's essentially the goal with these guides. Don't forget, once we hit 27,500 subs for the giveaways, have yourself a fantastic day, and see you in the next one.